Hi, welcome to January 2015's Technique class with Michelle Last. This month we're using the Painted Petals stamp set, which looks like this, and we're creating 3 cards. Today I'm going to share with you this card, which is a bit vintagey, and I'm going to show you how we created it. So when you get your, if you're using the Painted Petals set, these 2 flowers in the stamp set, which are what we're using for the background, they actually come joined. But as you can see, we're not putting 2 images together. So what I'd encourage you to do is to cut them in half. So you've got 2 separate flowers, okay? That's what I've done. So that means I can simply mount them onto my clear block. I know that they're red, it's because I've used dark colour ink on them, but they're perfectly clean. You're going to end up with your card pack that looks like this. Remember, the cardstock you need for the front of the card is on the front, and the cardstock you need for the inside of the card is on the inside. And what you're going to do is remove the Naturals white card for the front section, and we're going to stamp that first. So what you need to do is get Blushing Bride ink, which is like a vintage pink, a dusky pink. And we're going to stamp the flowers over the card front. So you want to stamp your flowers so they come off the edge of the cardstock, not just in the centre. And I'm just twisting them as I stamp. The brilliant thing about photopolymer is if you don't manage to stamp up the whole flower image, you can go back over it and leave room to do the other flower. So now I'm going to do the other flower. Like so. Okay, now I'm going to add the green leaf, and in the stamp set you have the 2 leaf stamps. So I'm going to grab the pistachio pudding ink, and I've already mounted up the little leaf on my clear block, and I'm just going to do a leaf, turning it as I go, positioning it just to have a little bit of green. It's not going to show up as much as mine is now, because we're going to grunge the card and make it a bit distressed. So we're going to make it slightly browner tone, so you're not going to see this quite so bright as it currently is. Just a little bit of green, a little tiny bit there. Okay, then what we're going to do is just clean it off. Okay, now what we're going to do is get the crumb cake ink and the Gorgeous Grunge stamp set. Now, Gorgeous Grunge stamp set, I'm going to be using this stamp and this stamp. If you can use the others, by all means, but I didn't want to grunge it too much. Really sorry for pit barking. We have building work going on at the moment, and they keep walking in front of the window, which is just freaking her out. So I'm inking up in between, but I'm also going to stamp and then stamp again, so I just get a lighter tone. So add as much as you wish. Whilst you're here, on the inner piece, let me show you the sample. This is the one I've made. I've also stamped a flower and grunged the edge of the inner piece, so I'm going to quickly do them at the same time. So, sorry, I'm just going to go back and do a little flower in the corner there. And I really can put the Blushing Bride to one side for a second. A little leaf. There we go. And now I can also just grunge around the edges. Like that. Okay. So that's my inside and my outside. I'm also going to add some of the lined stamp. And I'm going to do that. I'm not going to go too hard with that. I just want to add a little bit of detail around the card, like so. So look what I did on the inside, just do a little bit off the edge and then a little bit more just there. Yeah, I'm going to call that done. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to distress my edges. Now I have a distressing tool that Stampin' Up used to sell, and what you need to do is you need to hold the cardstock firm and drag the distressing tool on the edge of the cardstock, and the firmer you are, the more distressed the edge gets. Another way of doing it is you can imagine this is the edge of my tabletop. lean your paper just so it protrudes slightly from the edge and go over it like this, and that the tabletop will give you a flat surface, which makes it a little bit easier. If you don't hold it, what you then do is you do this and then you get creases in your paper, which you don't want to happen. Another little tip is if you don't own an edge distresser, you can use scissors and use the centre part of the scissors, and if you just run that across the edges of your cardstock, you will get the same desired effect. So that would work too. So you're going to go around and distress all the edges, but you're just going to give them that little raised lip, so that now when I ink the edges, I'm going to be able to pick up quite a lot of ink on those raised edges. Just grabbing a bit of sponge. You can use sponge daubers, or you can use the sponge. This is a Stampin' Up sponge, just cut into 4. I'm going to go, I always start with the lightest colour, so this is Crumb Cake. So I'm going to pick up a bit of ink on my sponge, and I'm going to start off the card, and I'm going to just go in a circular motion just around the edge, and I'm going to look at it and go, is it dark enough? Do you know what? Probably isn't. So I'm going to, depends how inky your ink pads are, but I'm going to go to soft suede, pick up a bit of ink, and I'm going to go over it and go, is that much different? Yeah, I'm getting that nice grungy edge, and it's picking it up nicely on all the turned edges that I just created with the edge distresser. So you can go to town and do this as much or as little as you wish. I'm just doing it around the edges, like so, and then I'm going to do the same on the inside piece. I think it'd look a bit strange if you didn't do the inside as well. So. That'll do. Then with the early espresso ink, sorry, I'm just going to grab that. The early espresso ink, I'm going to stamp the "You Are Amazingly Amazing" on the inside. So just get that mounted. And the "Thank You" for the front too. Ink it up. I'm just going to take it to where I'm sitting, otherwise I'm going to struggle to get it straight. There we are. It's not come out brilliantly. I could go over the top of that, and if I went over the top of it and messed it up, what I'd do is just flip it over and redo the distressing. But for now, I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to pretend it's meant to be like that because it's grungy. And then in your card pack, you have 2 pieces of Naturals White. One of them, you're going to stamp the "Thank You." Just clean that up so I can put that back in the box. I'm going to put the "Thank You" from the Painted Petals stamp set. I'm going to pick it up a bit better than I did a moment ago and stamp it. It's a bit better. And then I'm going to punch around it with a 1-inch square punch. You can cut just a 1-inch square if you don't have the punch. And then this piece I'm going to stamp in the Blushing Bride, and I'm going to use the Tag Talk stamp set, and I'm going to be using this image here. So I'll just grab that one, ink it up, get a nice impression. You can see which side I pressed on harder there, can't you? And then I'm going to punch it out with the, what's this one called? The Label Bracket Punch. Okay. Then I'm simply going to stick, I always forget to get glue when I do video. I get all the supplies out, but I forget to get any glue that I need. Luckily, I've got some to hand. So I'm going to position that so it sits and butts up to each of these little indents here, like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my card blank, and I'm going to glue this to the front of my card. Rather hurriedly. Like so, and then I'm going to glue the inner to the inside of my card. Like that. And then in your card pack, as well as the envelope, a little bit of green card and a little piece of trim from the artisan embellishment kit that looks like this. So I've just cut off an individual flower for you all. And what you need to do is you need to trim off the netting away from the flower. Can you see the netting there? So what I'm going to do is just trim around, so to take the excess netting off so you can't see it when we stick the flower on. Let's just tuck that bit there while I get the netting. Like that. And what I'll do is I'll grab a dimensional. I'm going to grab a dimensional, put it on the back of the flower, peel off the backing, and then that little straight bit there, I'm just going to tuck that on so it stays stuck underneath. Okay, I'm going to stick that in a moment. Then I need the bird builder punch, which looks like this. And all I want is the little leaf. So I'm just going to go to the leaf, punch out a leaf. What I tend to do is if I snip off that top leaf there and the bottom one, that gives me just a little leaf that I can attach. So what I want to do is I'm going to stick my thank you to the front of my card using dimensionals because I've raised it up. Okay, so I'm going to make sure, I'm going to think about where I want that to go. If you've made a mistake or there's a blodgy bit you don't like, that's the perfect place to stick it. Then I'm going to stick my little flower. I have to stick my flower down first because I don't want it to cover the sentiment. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of Tombow on the stalk, on the underside of the stalk, just like that. And then, ow, I'm going to stick it on the front of my card. Oops. I'm going to tuck that underneath, find the right place for the leaves there. So I'm going to stick that on the front like that. And that is your finished card complete. Inside's done, inside's done. And you have an envelope ready to go. So that's a really quick and easy card. I hope you enjoyed making that, and I hope you enjoy watching the other videos too. Thank you.